I'd like to call to order the Marshall City Council meeting for Monday, May 6, 2019. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Karen.
Here.
Councilmember Gates.
Here.
Councilmember McNeil.
Here.
Councilmember Metzger.
Here.
Councilmember Traver.
Here.
Councilmember Underhill.
Here.
Councilmember Wolfersberger.
Here.
We have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. We will start this evening with invocation by Richard Girton of Family Bible Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. Let us pray. Dear Lord, it is a privilege to stand here tonight to speak to you on behalf of those who govern us as well, and ask God for your guidance, direction for them, Lord, as they deal with the affairs of the city of Marshall. We want to give you thanks for the way that we are blessed, for they are many, for the country that we live in. We ask for your protection on those who protect our country as well, for the state and especially the city. We're thankful, God, for our neighbors and those who surround us and the opportunity, Lord, that we have to care for one another. We especially pray tonight, Lord, for this council as they represent the citizens of this city. We ask, God, that you would give them wisdom and you'd give them guidance, Lord, as they make decisions that affect the population here. We pray for those who participate in this meeting, Lord, that there would be, Lord, a sense of respect for all. And we give you thanks, Lord, that we have such a form of government, Lord, that we can all have the right to speak. So we would ask, Lord, for your guidance once again, and we ask it in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will start this evening with the approval of agenda. First, we will have public comment on agenda items, followed by the consent agenda. Under presentations and recognitions, we have the Marshall Community Foundation here with us this evening. We have two event reports under items 9A and B. Item 12A is the recognition of Fountain Clinic as a charitable organization. 12B, we have school resource officer agreement with the Marshall Public Schools. 12C, we have the Michigan hard cap exemption. 12D, we have Michigan Public Power Agency associate member. 12E, notice of intent to issue bonds for the electric fund. And then under 12F, G, and H, we had third quarter financial reports, followed by the appointment of city attorneys, public comment on non-agenda items, council manager and communications, and then entering into closed session to discuss collective bargaining agreements. Any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Support. We have a motion and support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we will have public comment on agenda items. Anyone wishing to address the council, please speak your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak. Nobody? All right, hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Item 7A is to schedule a public hearing for the fiscal year 2020 budget. 7B is to schedule a public hearing for proposed amendments to the City of Marshall Code of Ordinances, sections 137.04, marijuana, and 137.05, possession or use of drug paraphernalia. Item 7C is the sidewalk use license for Dark Horse Commons. Item 7D are the City Council minutes for the work session and regular session on Monday, April 15th, 2019, the special session on Monday, April 22nd, 2019, and the work session for Monday, April 27th, 2019. And item 7E are the city bills totaling $336,600.24. Seek a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move the consent agenda be approved as stated.
Support.
We have a motion support. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? All right, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Member Gates?
Yes.
Member McNeil?
Yes.
Member Metzger?
Yes.
Member Traver?
Yes.
Member Underhill?
Yes.
Member Wolfersberger?
Yes.
Mayor Karen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. That moves us on to presentations and recognition, and we have Shannon Tiernan here this evening from the Marshall Community Foundation.
Hello, thank you. My name is Shannon, again, Tiernan. I'm the Executive Director of the Marshall Community Foundation. First, I would like to thank Mayor Karen, council members, and Tom for inviting me here tonight on behalf of the Community Foundation. When my husband Joe and I first moved to Marshall in October of 2001, there were a number of things that we loved about this community. The amazing water trails and access to green spaces, our grand fountain. I mean, who really has a fountain in the middle of their town, right? A solid public school system with opportunities for our kids that are diverse as the kids that we represent. Our county fair. All the people who care, like truly care about the future of this community. And probably my favorite, Christmas lights and the Christmas parade every holiday season. When I started my career at the Marshall Community Foundation 3 years ago, you can imagine how pleased I was that literally everything I love most about this town is touched in some way by the Marshall Community Foundation through our grant making. I feel truly blessed to be able to represent our community in this capacity. I would like to give you a bit of background. The foundation was established in 1970 as the Marshall Civic Trust. We became the Marshall Community Foundation in 1991. Since our first grant was made, the foundation has distributed more than $10 million, with the majority of those resources being allocated to local nonprofits and individuals through scholarships. Most recently, the foundation distributed $867,882 during our 2017-18 fiscal year. We currently hold nearly $14.5 million in total net assets, with more than $9 million of that being permanently endowed. As of today, we manage 115 permanently endowed funds and 32 non-endowed pass-through funds. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking in detail about the individual funds that we hold at the foundation, but I want you to understand that each and every one of those dollars that adds up to $10 million is made possible through the generosity of people just like you and I, who care so very much about this community that they're willing to contribute of their time and treasure to make the great things that we love possible through the generosity at the Community Foundation. Our funds range from supporting specific agencies like the Fountain Clinic or Frank Center, for example, to broader fields of interest like community development or human services. And of course, we have a number of funds that were established in support of city programs. In the last 10 years alone, the Marshall Community Foundation has distributed more than $800,000 to various city projects through our quarterly grant-making initiative, pass-through funds, and endowed funds. This amount includes resources to build the restrooms at Kids Kingdom, money to purchase the property now known as Sherman Park, resources for Marshall City Recreation's athletic field updates, and air conditioners for Marshall House. There are more than 50 projects that have been supported by the Marshall Community Foundation over the last 10 years that have been funded through the City of Marshall. They range from projects that are $400 to, like I said, $40,000. I think it's safe to say there isn't a corner of our community that hasn't been impacted by the Marshall Community Foundation. The foundation is proud to support organizations like the city to continue making Marshall the wonderful place it is to live, learn, and raise a family. I said it already, but I'll say it again. I feel very fortunate to be able to serve our community in this capacity. The resources held and managed by the Marshall Community Foundation will be impacting this community long after you and I are here. This work we do is so much bigger than any one of us, and our impact will live on for generations. Mr. Mayor, would you mind if I distributed copies of our most recent impact report to council members?
Please do.
So it's not just the financial resources. You will see that there are over 300 people who volunteer to help us make all of this possible in the community. And, it truly is a pleasure to be able to serve Marshall in this capacity. And I want to say thank you for what you do, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Those numbers are pretty impressive, and it's nice to see that, and what a huge impact the Community Foundation does make on our community, and with having you at the helm, that's also very exciting for us. So appreciate you taking the time to come here today and present to us, and it's nice to see where some of this local money is going and how it's supporting our community and different resources. So does anyone have any questions for Shannon?
Is there anything else that you need from us or from the community that you feel is lacking?
Oh, gosh, I think that the needs in town will always exceed our ability to meet them. So I enjoy, maybe more than anything else, getting to know the people of our town, and in particular, the concerns that they have, the needs that they see, and how they feel like we might be able to help move the needle in particular areas. Collectively, we're so much smarter than any one of us. So again, that's probably my favorite part, is really getting out and talking with people. So what I say to you as people in our community who are on the front lines, when you see something that you think maybe the Community Foundation could help to impact in any way, please let me know. Thank you. My phone number's up there and my email address, and it's also in the report I just gave you. But call me. Let me know. I am having conversations on sometimes a daily basis with people who see needs in town, want to establish a fund, whether it be endowed or pass through, to be able to help meet that need. And it's the role of the Community Foundation to help facilitate that generosity in town. And I happen to have the privilege of meeting with people like Mary Jo and Harriet Carroll at Max, and the people who oversee the various food pantries in town, and people who want to build things like Kids Kingdom. So I can help to really connect the dots for people too, who might not be thinking that there's others in town who are interested in doing very similar things to them, and maybe could work together to make it happen. So if you see something, I really do ask you, and I'm not just saying this because I'm here today, I want to know how we can help. So reach out to me, please.
Shannon, we're always looking for money for the roads.
Oh, if it were that easy.
Don't say I didn't try. Don't say I didn't try.
If it were that easy. So, thank you very much.
I guess I'll say
Thank
one
you.
thing about Shannon. Mary Jo, myself, Pastor Gerton sit on the board, and Shannon has a huge staff. So it's Shannon being the only full-time employee,
Right.
and 2 part-time employees. You can see the work that she did, in a year.
Wow.
That's
I have to say, I would love to be able to take full credit for that, but we have a person in the room whose business really helped to make that piece happen. And ideas are a dime a dozen, but people who can actually execute those ideas are brilliant. So Ryan and Bluefish really helped us to produce that piece and
You
get
did
it out.
you did the work. These are your numbers, so I mean
Thank
it's
you.
it's a huge accomplishment. So congratulations.
Thanks.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we have item 9A under informal items, the event report for the Relay for Life Carry-On 5K race. And Jim's going to walk us through this one, or run us through this one. Get it, because it's a race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Relay for Life, on the last day there, they have the Carry On the Run 5K race, and that's going to take place on June 29th, and it starts about 8:30 a.m. What's nice about this event is it takes mostly the side streets. We're only crossing Michigan Avenue on 2 locations, at Grand Street, and then when we're coming back over on High Up and coming back down that way. So staff-wise, we usually use 1 from the fire, and we'll use 2 from the police side, and the 1 car just stays ahead of the other one for the intersections and moving forward. So the number of participants is usually only between 30 to 50 runners at this event, but it's for a great cause and well worth the effort that we put into it. one of the benefits is that morning is breakfast is usually served, so you know that the law enforcement and fire will be up there. Schuler's did it last year, and it was wonderful. So I think it's well worth. There's no street closures, so just bringing the event to your attention.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have the event report for Jam for a Cure. Kristen's going to help us with that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. We received a request from Teresa Huggett again this year. On behalf of her husband, for 12 years now, she's run an annual Jam for the Cure event at Stewart's Landing. Last year, she held it in a different location due to some of the construction at the South Marshall Avenue Bridge. Again, she's requesting to do this on August 13th between 10 and 10 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. She has requested that the city waive the fee for using the electrical at Stewart's Landing. It's a $35 fee, and I believe we have waived that in the past. Additionally, she's requested to utilize the grass area next to the chapel across Homer Road from Stewart's Landing. City staff is not recommending that we grant that access. That's a grass area. It's not prepared for parking cars. And we believe that should weather be bad or it be soft at all, that it will seriously damage that area. And we don't have funds to repair that, nor do I want to take funds from her fundraising for the cancer event to have to charge her to do that. So we have not requested granting that or allowing that access.
Is she aware of that at this point?
She is. She is
Okay.
aware of. She's received a copy of this event report and is aware of that.
Okay.
Can they park in the parking lot across?
Yeah, they can park. We were granting permission for them to park at the Public Services Building, which has access via the Riverwalk to Stewart's Landing, as well as the DPW parking lot. So but her event is quite large, I believe, so it probably will exceed that. There is available parking on the on-street, across the street on Raymond Drive and the other roads in that area. So that's really about the only stipulation that we're putting on her, is not to use the grassy area.
Kristen, I know she's done this in the past a lot of times at this location. The only thing that's a little concerning to me is, you know, until 11:30 p.m. and it being disruptive to the neighborhood. Do we know if that's ever been a concern in the past or had been brought up?
I've never gotten any feedback after the last couple events about that, and this is only a half hour later than what we've previously allowed.
Sure.
So unless the police department's heard something, I've not. He's ringing.
Sorry about that.
So,
Okay. Any other questions for Kristen on this?
For the grassy, for that grassy area that you do not want people parking on, has that been an issue in the past where people have parked there? And do we need to put up no parking signs for the day of the
it has
event?
not been an issue. There's no real access to it via there's no drop curb or anything, so you'd have to kind of force the issue for them to go there.
They were,
So
I
we've not
believe
had
they were
issues.
just trying to maybe utilize that space for like a car show that they were going to add on to the event, so it
Okay.
was more of like additional space that they were asking for instead of, you know, for just parking of
For
regular.
additional parking, okay.
Maybe they should move it to the
Cool.
fairgrounds. It'd be a big area.
It's the problem is it's the weekend before fair, so it's for the weekend of the start of fair,
Preparation.
so it's just not really good with those dates, but maybe we can consider that in the future.
That's a huge.
Yeah. All right, thank you. All right, next we will move on to item 12A, recognition of the Fountain Clinic as a charitable organization, and Tom's going to walk us through this one.
Mary Jo. Council has done this a couple times in the past. East End Gallery, the Firefighter Association. The state of Michigan requires that you recognize a nonprofit. And this is what you're doing tonight. There's a resolution that we sent up, or Mary Jo will send up to the state, but maybe a little bit about the event so you have some free advertising. So.
All right. And a shameless invitation. Thank you very much. We are having our annual Night at the Louvre fundraiser. It's always held up at Tom Frank's estate. We have a huge tent, a big dinner, a silent auction, a live auction, And this year, one of our committee members came up with this brilliant idea of doing a drawing just before the live auction. We'll be selling ping pong balls. And just before the live auction starts, we'll draw the winning ball, and whoever gets it gets to pick whatever live auction item they want, and that comes off the live auction. So for $50, you could be going to England or South Carolina or South Haven or wherever. To draw that ping pong ball, the state of Michigan is making us jump through these various hoops because we've never had a license before. And one of them is asking you folks to recognize us as an organization. And as you all know, we've been here 27 years taking care of people that are uninsured, low income for both medical and dental. And this fundraiser means a lot to us. It's our biggest one. It's what pays our bills for the summer. So the idea that this community member came up with is great, but I need some help from you guys to get it off the ground. So, any questions? And you are all invited. If you didn't get one in the mail, let me know. We'll get you an invitation.
It is a great event.
It is.
It is.
It is.
Well, I support this 100%.
All right, thank you, Mary Jo.
Thank you.
I will seek a motion to approve the resolution allowing the Fountain Clinic to be recognized as a nonprofit organization for the purpose of obtaining a charitable gaming license.
Support.
Motion support. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. That moves us on to item 12B, School Resource Officer Agreement with Marshall Public Schools.
Council, in your packet, you should have both a red strike and a completed copy submitted to you for this agreement with the School Resource Officers Program. Last week, the school approved the school resource officer costing or allocating $40,000 through the end of the year with the understanding that they are to pay the full amount for that officer. We, as a city, would agree to pay the side costs like uniforms, the vest, the vehicle costs going forward. The school resource officer is very important on a couple fronts. It allows us to recognize deficiencies before they become a problem. Working with students and knowing their background and their familiarity with family situations and things, we can address those needs before it becomes a criminal matter. The school recognizes that as well. And now with some of the school safety concerns that are taking place, we also want to be part of that security and making this a learning environment at all times. One of the considerations in the strikeouts, we need to deal with who does the school resource officer belong to. And it is an employee of the city. It will work under my direction with input from the school. So you see some of that where the SRO is not allowed to have certain information. Well, if we're doing a complaint or a complaint file against them, I have to know those things in order to fulfill the obligations to contractual and also our employee rights. So the strikeouts aren't that significant. It just deals mostly with internal processes and having the school maintain some of the records instead of us. It should stay within the school. Are we reducing truancy? Are we maintaining the goals set by the superintendent and the school board? That should be maintained by the school itself, not by the city of Marshall. I truly recommend that we accept this proposal. Our initial cost is about, I believe I had it at $9,800 with recurring costs of about $5,200 over the time. I'm also applying for a school resource officer grant. Should that happen, the school will pick up the remaining percentage. Could be anywhere from 95% covered to 75% covered, depending on what the grant award is. The school is willing to pick that up for the next 3 years to keep that going, and then at the 4th year, we decide who's going to take over at that point. Through attrition, through growth, usually that's never an issue going forward. So that being said, with your approval, if you could could approve this, we can move forward. I'll get it back to the school, let them review the final version that we have presented to you and to them, and get this moving forward.
Jim, when we had officers in the past at the school, who was responsible for their salaries?
We did a 50-50 previously. Now it is, the school's picking up 100% of the cost for a new officer. So really what we're doing is we're putting an officer in the school that is ready to go train, and I have 2 officers that are capable of doing that. So we'll put an officer in there. They're covering the cost of that new hire. And so 100%, and then with the grant, they'll cover the difference between there.
So does this officer need to be specifically trained for this role?
Yes. So, and the school is aware that I have to have this officer trained before I can put someone into the school. My responsibility is to the streets and to the public first, and the school is aware of that as well.
And if this specific officer is on vacation or sick, what happens for coverage? Do we know?
We will cover like we normally do. We're not taking strength away, we're replacing the one officer that was there, so what if the officer that before went into the school was sick or
Yes, sorry, I mean specifically for the training. So if it
oh,
requires
within
training.
the school itself?
Yeah,
It would be a day without, we would handle calls like we are now.
okay,
Yes,
got it.
I understand, thank you.
Would they rotate between the middle school and high school, or is it strictly up at the high school?
The school is also providing an office for the officer, which is going to be housed in the middle school. And then the officer that is assigned to the schools will go to each and every school.
Daily?
I would assume yes, depending if something major happens that he can't get there. But they are responsible for all. They do the presentations, they'll work with DARE, with GREAT, school activities afterwards, fun nights, not just the football games or basketball games, but everything that's taking place up there.
Okay.
It's going to be their responsibility. And in the summer, that officer belongs to the city of Marshall. So we can also backfill some of our vacations and things that are happening during the summer.
Can a current officer take that responsibility and you bill it with a new officer?
I'm sorry.
Can a current staff, a current police officer, could they take that position on and you bill?
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. A current
Oh,
officer is
you
going
are
to take
going
the
to.
school.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because I have them trained. They've already been to GREAT training, DARE training, bias training, social interaction. There's things that we have to deal with dealing with students that we don't normally in a school situation, you know, detention and restraints and all these things come into play. So
To get additional officers up to speed and trained, what kind of a time frame does that require?
it takes us about 16 weeks. I could let them go at about 14. So that's why we want to really get this approved and get started, so by the time school starts, we have that officer in the school.
Okay.
Would you be able to forecast, looking in the future, that would there ever be a need for additional officers within the schools?
That would be between the school. I'm committing the one now with the idea that they're paying 100% or through the grant. And the city's going to write the grant for this. It's going to be a mutual grant submitted between the schools and the city, which helps in their point factoring. But if the school feels there's another officer, that would have to come in through them as well. We're just in no position at this point to take that on as a city, to commit those kind of resources for one area.
And does this include, you said all the schools, does it include the 2 Marshall schools that are in Albion?
Does not. They currently have an officer in Albion that stops into their school on a regular basis. We would work with that officer, also working with the sheriff's office. They understand that some of these things are going to be happening. What's nice about the building up here is we share resources with the state and the county. They would work closely together with us as well. So they are aware that not everyone lives in the city that attends Marshall. Actually, quite a few live outside.
Yeah.
So,
All right, any other questions for Jim?
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Glad they're doing this.
yeah, it's well needed.
Yes.
So the recommendation is to approve the school resource officer agreement between the City of Marshall and Marshall Public Schools as presented. Seek a motion.
So moved.
A motion support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That moves us on to item 12C, the Michigan hard cap exemption, and Tracy's going to walk us through this one.
Good evening. As we have talked in the past, back in 2011, the state passed Public Act 152, which requires public employers to only pay a limited amount towards health care for their employees. The city has managed to keep our health care costs below this hard cap since 2011 when it was put in place. This year, we're finding it a little more difficult. The hard cap only went up 1.9% this year. Our health insurance rates went up over 7% this year. And that's kind of has been the way it has happened the last several years. So in part of PA 152 is we can either meet the hard cap limits or we can come to our governing board and ask them to approve either an 80-20 where the city pays no more than 80% of the total cost, or we can ask to exempt ourselves from the requirements. And we are coming to you today asking if we could exempt ourselves for this plan year.
Tracy, I know when I read the document, you specifically mentioned Blue Cross as being the provider.
Yes.
Are we doing our due diligence in checking with all insureds?
We do get quotes from several different companies, or we do ask for quotes. We have over 60 retirees on our plan right now, and most places won't even quote us dollars because of the number of retirees that we have on our plan.
But the ones that do, did you get any this year?
We did not this year, because last year we only had one company that would even quote us anything, and their numbers weren't close to what we had with Blue Cross.
So I guess what then I need to ask is, again, spreadsheet-wise, is our cost now, the employer costs employee, their current obligation, our current obligation, and the change, what is it going to cost? I don't know if opting out's a good choice or a bad choice. To me, it didn't look like the best choice.
I guess I'm not following what you're asking.
I'd like to know first, what does this mean if we don't opt out?
If we don't opt out, I have looked at 8 different health plans this year through Blue Cross. I'd have to keep looking and searching and trying to find one that would meet the hard cap numbers.
Okay.
Which
Would
mean
then
lesser service
affect all the
levels.
employees and the amounts they pay or what type of coverage we have. And we have, since 2011, made several changes to our plans to keep it below the hard cap.
I have a question. So when we last spoke about this issue, we had talked about what were the potential ramifications for the city for removing the hard cap. I see that it says basically no fiscal effect, but have we researched that? What, if any, ramifications are there?
On the fiscal effect?
Yes, what's it going to cost us in addition to what it currently
Whether there was
does?
any funding tied to.
If we had no changes to our plan, and I don't know if this is exactly what you're asking or not, but if we have no changes to our plan, if we offer the same plan that we've offered year after year, we will be $35,000 over the hard cap. So we would have to have all of our employees chip in to pay that $35,000.
Well, my question was, so previously the hard cap had been tied to state funding for other things?
Correct.
But when we talked before, you guys had said that we think that those connections are gone. So we've confirmed that it's not really tied to anything? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
As long as we have council approve the resolution, there are no penalties for opting out.
Okay.
Back in 2011, they tried to play really hardcore, and then they just mellowed it down over time. And we have never brought this to you because we've been able to, even though there was small changes from the state, we were able to, with different plans, employees, assistants, employees work together to keep it under the hard cap. This is the first year that we just don't have a way to do it. Now, keep in mind, this is something every year has to be taken care of. So next year, we can report back, and we would have to ask you again for an exemption or to go with 80/20 or have the employees pay. So in all the contracts, the language has been there that if not, then the employee pays the difference. We think our employees have really worked hard to keep the good plans, to pay a bigger share over the years. Some of the council members have been there. We've moved up in what employees have paid from actually 0 at one time, up to 10 and up to 22%. So we feel this at this time, this would be the best route for us to go.
Is there any like cities around here that have done the same thing, opt out?
I honestly do not know.
See, I'm tempted to just say I want to do some research because there's a lot we don't know.
One thing that we are in a time frame here, that our open enrollment starts the end of May because our plan year is July 1. Tracy has to get all the forms out to all the employees. They then, of course, meet with their spouses and decide what plan. So we don't have a whole lot of time to make this decision. So I just wanted to share that with all of you.
Tracy, maybe if you can explain a little more how this would benefit our city employees, that might make it a little clearer on the.
Right now, based on hire date and what union employees are under, we pay anywhere from 12% to 22% of our monthly premium. We do have a high deductible health plan of $4,000 for a family. The city gives us 90% of that into our HSA account. If we do not opt out, I think the numbers I figured we'd only be able to put like 60% into the HSA versus the 90 that we've been doing. And employees, or we could look at making the employees pay more of their premium, but it would be more than the 22%, which is the higher amount that people are paying.
So with the cost increasing, we can either take it out of their HSA if we don't remove this, or we make them pay more for their premiums in order to make up for the difference.
Right.
Okay. And if we remove the hard cap, if we don't remove the hard cap, we need to stay within that level, but then offer a lesser insurance.
Yes.
With not as great of benefits.
Right.
In order to stay within that.
I wouldn't know.
Given the cap is statewide, correct? The increase is
Correct.
statewide. So
Yes.
the 1.9% increase year over year, when I think most employers are seeing healthcare costs go up meaningfully more than that year over year. I'm not surprised by this. It's unfortunate that we're in this situation, but I'm not surprised. I think it's the right course of action for us to move out of the capped structure. It would be helpful, though, next year, to Nick's point, if this kind of content can come a bit earlier so that we have a bit more time to prep and understand the financial impact.
We get our rates in mid to late March, so that would be the absolute earliest that we could bring numbers to you guys.
Other questions for Tracy? All right, so I would seek a motion to adopt the resolution to exempt the city from the requirements of Public Act 152 of 2011.
So moved.
Support.
The motion and support, and we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Member Metzger?
It's for 1 year, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Member Traver?
Yes.
Member Underhill?
Yes.
Member Wolfersberger?
Yes.
Mayor Karen?
Yes.
Member Gates?
Yes.
Member McNeil?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. That moves us on to item 12D, the Michigan Public Power Agency Associate Member.
As you're aware through our Government 101, we are a member of Michigan South Central Power Agency, which we're a full requirements energy supplier. back in '78, there was two agencies created. One was Michigan Public Power Agency in Lansing, and then Michigan South Central. Over the years, the power industry has changed, where several years ago, well, going back prior to 1978, the city did things on their own. The market was very simple, it wasn't complicated. And then the federal government decided to get involved, and it became very complicated. And former council member Williams, he would be talking about this, as you all know. We joined AMP a couple years ago for the market participant, and we are looking, actually all the members of Michigan South Central are looking at, could MPPA, Michigan Public Power Agency, provide us additional services, better services for power supply, other service, ancillary services that we may need. So we want to be able to see what MPPA can offer, and to really be involved at their meetings by becoming an associate member. Gives us that opportunity to really watch and see in the end what would be the best. Michigan South Central Board is actually meeting this Friday, talking about our strategic plan and seeing what we want to be with the sale of the old Endicott coal-fired plant, which was totally out of market. We don't have that asset that can hold us down. So we're looking at, would we be a better joint action agency instead of 5 members being part of MPPA, which would be, I believe, 27 members in the state. We're talking cities such as Lansing, Holland, Traverse City, Zeeland, Grand Haven. So it just gives us the opportunity to do more research to see, is this better for our future for power supply?
Yeah, I think with our upcoming power needs, it's smart to look and see what might better suit us, or if there's anything out there that would work better for our needs.
That is correct. Ed's been keeping up. Ed, in his former position, was a member of MPPA, and so he's familiar. And so one of the things I'm asking in the application is that Ed be I'm not sure the title they use.
The associate member.
Be the associate member, and I would be the alternate. Ed has more experience, and I think, so I'd like to continue that relationship that he's built when he was up in Traverse City.
Okay. As long as this is coming out of Ed's budget, right, Nick?
Yes, Ed. I see you hiding back there. You're still here.
All right, any other, go ahead, Scott.
Would this lead to the dissolution of the MSCPA?
No, we're going to be talking, actually, that's big discussion on Friday, is there's too many legacy costs and agreements with former employees, also with transmission rights that MSCPA has. We have about 132 megawatts of transmission rights in the state. There's some other requirements. So we would see MSCPA still existing, but would, the staffing model would be different. The governance model would be a little different. So it would still exist as a joint action, but maybe have less function.
And any financial ties would be negotiated. Just becoming an associate member doesn't tie us financially to the organization.
That is correct.
All right, if there are any other questions, I would seek a motion to adopt the resolution to become an associate member of the Michigan Public Power Agency.
So moved?
Support.
The motion and support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now that moves us to item 12E, notice of intent to issue bonds for the electric fund. John?
Evening, Council, Honorable Mayor. Presenting you tonight an intent to sell electric revenue bonds. does two things. It allows us to go back 60 days from tonight and reimburse ourselves if need be for any cost that we've incurred on these projects. It also begins a 45-day referendum that anybody can say, we want this on a ballot. But, Director Rice has put together a very nice cash flow based on some of the things that are happening in Marshall. It's an ideal cash flow. If anything goes south, this gives us cash flow. I don't expect to sell the bonds, but this gives us the ability to, not go back in time. We can go forward quickly and sell the bonds and maintain our cash flow. So that's the intent of the resolution in front of you.
So any questions for John on this?
One comment that's usually asked is, this does not authorize the sale of the bonds. This is just the intent, similar to what you did with the water bonds several months ago. Next month, you will be seeing a report for the actual sale of those bonds. We are hoping that our cash flow will allow us not to have to sell these bonds, but we need to protect ourselves.
Excellent. If no other questions, I would seek a motion to approve the resolution, notice of intent to sell electric system revenue bonds, initiating the 45-day referendum period prior to the sale of the bonds, and to authorize the city clerk to publish the notice of intent and right of referendum.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That moves us to item 12F, third quarter financial report.
Yes, I presented to you some tables on revenue expense. In the council report, I've given you kind of my highlights of what's going on, why things aren't right at 75%. Feel like a broken record. I come up here and there's no bells or whistles going off. There's no alarms. I was a little alarmed at the end of the second quarter, but everything seems to be right where it should be. At this point going forward, I will come to you in your second meeting in June with the final budget adjustments for the year, fiscal year 19. But other than that, unless you have questions, I don't think there's anything to worry about.
Not really a question, but just because this is of interest to the public, I'm sure the revenue for FiberNet, can you just give a little bit more context there?
A lot of it was the delay. I think we were at about a 6-month delay in the design. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ed. The backbone was getting done, customers weren't getting hooked up. I think there was 300 and some thousand in commercial revenue. That was like $14,000. Growing pains. We thought we'd do a lot better, and it's just not there yet. But I think based on the FiberNet work session for fiscal year 20 in the budget, I think you're seeing positive cash flow, and it can only get better. So there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Any other questions for John on the third quarter financial report?
Just a question about the revenues from firekeepers. Is that normal that they don't?
That will come in May, 1st of June. I don't know if you know exactly when it's coming in.
I don't know the exact date, but it is the
It's soon.
$100,000.
Is that just going to the general fund, right?
All right, so I will seek a recommendation to accept the third quarter financial report as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That moves us on to the third quarter investment portfolio.
Yeah, if you look at the table, right now, currently, we have one CD for $515,000. We have $2.820 in pooled cash right now. That's just our pooled cash that we have in reserve for right now. Again, to remind council, the $3.5 million interfund loan to FiberNet is not shown here. So, we have some cash in the bank. We will probably start drawing down on a couple of these pooled cash we start getting our money, our tax revenue in August, basically before September 15th. So at the end of June, we will start going, quite a ways down. We don't have the revenues coming in. Interest rates are up, as you can see. When I first started, they were like 1.2. Now they're up to 2.7. Hopefully they'll keep going. Michael?
All right, any other questions for John? So I would seek a motion to accept the third quarter investment portfolio report as presented.
So moved.
Support.
A motion and support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That moves us to the third quarter cash position report.
Yes, as presented in front of you, we have total cash of $4.665 million. Our total cash in unrestricted investments is $7.474 million. One thing to point out, the airport right now currently has a cash deficit of $46,000. When we know exactly what the revenue expenses are at the end of the year, we will make a transfer from the general fund to subsidize that and make it basically even. It'll be even revenue and expense. We will not allow airport to go into a deficit. LDFA is $101,000 in a deficit, but we'll cash in investments on, I think it's June 6th of the $461,000, and we'll move that over and make that positive. Fiber and electric. Electric is now getting positive cash flow, and again, next year, fiber to the premise, we're hoping. I mean, it really is positive that we'll have positive cash flow in that. We have requested $700,000 from the agency, MSCPA, before the end of the year. I think it'll come in. It'll go into electric, and then it'll be loaned into fiber to keep that positive cash flow. So that's the plan.
And the allocation to the airport, the anticipated allocation to the airport is still expected to be within our budget, correct?
It'll be very close. I'm not going to be, say something that's not true, but yeah, it'll be very close.
Any additional questions for John? All right, so I will seek a motion to accept the third quarter cash position report as presented.
So moved.
Support?
A motion support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, John. That moves us on to item 13A, appointments and election, or appointments of the city attorney. Right now, we've been working with Dave Revore as our city attorney, and John Sullivan and John Brundage as our prosecuting attorneys. With all that we have going on, all of these projects upcoming, we need a good team behind us to help move these along. And I've been very pleased working with them in the past. So my recommendation would be to appoint David Revore as the city attorney and John Sullivan and John Brundage as the city prosecuting attorneys. Would seek a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion support. Any further comments or questions? All right, all in favor say, we do. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. That moves us on to public comment on non-agenda items. Anyone wishing to speak may have 5 minutes to do so. Please state your name and address for the record. All right, hearing none, we have council and manager communications. Member Traver?
I have nothing.
Okay. Member Underhill?
I had a Marshall Rec, Parks and Rec and Cemetery meeting 2 weeks ago. The Girl Scouts in town are actually going to build 6 to 12 bat houses. They're going to put in parks around the area. And then June 6th is the Marshall Rec Department's Fish and Float event down at Stewart Landing.
Excellent. Member Metzger?
Planning Commission has been canceled for this week due to lack of activity.
Staff? Members Wolfersberger?
I don't have anything this week. Thank you.
Member Gates?
Nothing today.
Member McNeil?
Nope.
All right, excellent. So that brings us to item 16. I would seek a motion to enter into closed session under Section 8C of the Open Meetings Act to discuss strategy for collective bargaining agreements.
So moved.
Support.
The motion and support, roll call vote, please.
Member Traver?
Yes.
Member Underhill?
Yes.
Member Wolfersberger?
Yes.
Mayor Karen?
Yes.
Member Gates?
Yes.
Member McNeil?
Yes.
Member Metzger?
Yep.
Motion carried.
Thank you.